5 reasons not to harm your... Oh, all my papers are blowing away. Look at that. Okay, we have to start over. So give me 1 second. Wow, everything just blew away. I went outside because it was so nice today, but I wasn't anticipating everything starting to blow away. You know, it feels like a perfectly fall day. Yes, it's spring, but it feels like fall. So anyway, putting this back up here so it will sort of lean and do what it's supposed to do. Isn't it pretty? Okay, start with the business as usual, I guess. 5 reasons not to harm your loved ones during quarantine. Hopefully we're all finding some sort of normal and it's not as stressful as it was those beginning days. I know in my house we've now figured out how to have enough bandwidth to have 4 of us Zooming at the same time, or just trying to, do work and have all those computers using our internet and my kids going to school. So it's definitely, we found spaces in our house that we probably never hung out in before. And as you can see, I'm pretty bundled up and doing this outside because it's quiet and pretty. So anyway, it's been an interesting weekend. Actually, on Saturday, I don't know if anyone noticed, but we had less than 100 deaths in a day, and we haven't seen that since the beginning of March. And so, take it for what it is. It was what was reported on Sunday for testing that was, 3 days earlier to 5 days earlier, for when you're looking at the new cases, and that only 83 people. This is my disaster of videoing today. That only 83 people died from Saturday to Sunday is certainly nothing to, frown at, but still, it's still a lot of people. Too many people are dying. So as for today, there's 2,391 deaths in Michigan. There's 31,424 total cases of COVID-19. And of those 31,424 cases, a little over 3,200 people have recovered. And that was as of April 17th, which was Friday. We are still 4th in the country behind New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. The Republicans are submitting a plan to reopen parts of our state. It's an interesting idea. If you want to read about it, it's on all the major news websites. WXYZ.com, click on Detroit.com, and you'll see it. It's proposed by Mr. Chatfield. And I'll give you just a quick highlight because I want to get on to talking about 2 other things today. The first, it basically would reopen our state by region, and those regions are divided into tiers. So tier 1 is called the highest risk communities, and those are obviously Wayne County, Oakland County, Macomb County. And essentially nothing would change there except that stores that were bigger than, I think it said 40,000 square feet, they would not have restrictions on the number of people who could be in them. But all the rest of the restrictions would stay in place. Tier 2 is what they called the heightened risk communities. There weren't any examples that I could find to put that in perspective for you. But what that says is basically the people who live in those communities would be able to have funerals, relaxed travel. Businesses could be open for curbside sales only. There would be a relaxed ban on elective or outpatient health care. And there would definitely be a decrease in the restrictions on outdoor recreation. And then tier 3 is what they call standard risk. and basically none of the restrictions would apply to those communities. So I anticipate that most of the tier 3 would be up north, and in some of those places that we love to spend our summer. And lots of people live there and think we're all crazy for what's going on down here because they're not here. But I think that what's funny about this is that the reason that they cite that this should be passed is because the people of Michigan need a light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't have time to do enough research to tell you who consulted in creating this plan. I don't know if it's medically based, science based, or just somebody's good idea. And so if you want to read more about it, that you'll see it on any of the major news outlets. And the governor is scheduled to speak today at 3. I think she'll probably address it since it was presented by the Republicans this morning, as a possibility. So now I wanted to talk first about, I've had a lot of people ask me how we go to court. What is it like for us now when we have to go to court? So I'm going to spend 3 minutes talking about that. And then I'm going to talk to you about Title IX and why and what universities are doing during this time when there's no students there in regards to completing investigations, pending investigations, what the issues are, what's going on with Betsy DeVos and her proposals to change policy and Title IX and how it's being handled. So first of all, the easy question, easy topic is how do we go to court? Well, we get a call from the clerk for something that is pending on our calendar, or if we've filed for an emergency hearing, whether it's a custody issue or a bond issue to get someone out of jail, if it's to accelerate a hearing that is scheduled way out, if we're going to waive actually having the hearing and just let the judge decide based on what we've written and submitted to the court. So we deal with the clerk and, kind of how do you want to do this? Do you want to have a hearing? Do you want to waive the hearing? What do you want to do? So for purposes of this example, we're going to have a hearing. So most courts, I think pretty much all courts, use Zoom. And if you're not familiar with Zoom, it's super fun to talk to your friends and play games and see your family. So they have a free trial you can have for a couple weeks, and it's fun if you haven't already tried it. But we Zoom, we get an invitation to a Zoom meeting, and there's a waiting room on Zoom. So you're in the waiting room. You can see and hear the clerk and see and hear the judge. The clerk is usually in the courtroom. The judge is usually at home or somewhere remotely. And then when they call your case, they take you, your client, and the prosecutor, or you, an opposing counsel, and your clients out of this waiting room, virtual area, and you're now in the courtroom. And they call the case, and we do it exactly like we would do it if we were standing there. It's kind of funny because when we first started doing it this way in early March, some attorneys would be in their car. It was kind of before the stay-at-home order. And some people would, be in their pajamas, and that has all been completely criticized by the Supreme Court. And so we do still have to look presentable and professional when we're doing these virtual hearings. And as I said, they go, it's just like you're standing there. There's a feature on Zoom called the breakout room. So if I needed to have a private conference with my client while we were in court, I would ask the judge for, a 5-minute break and breakout room, and then we can go in this private area of the Zoom conference that no one else can hear or have access to, and we can talk if we have to figure things out. Then afterward, you can prepare the orders, and we just email them in, the judge signs them, and the case moves forward to the next day. The other thing that happens is if you're, arguing about something and there's a case or there's a court rule or something that supports your position, you can email it right to the judge during the hearing. It's just like approaching the bench. So it works pretty well. I actually enjoy it because everything happens on time. I'm sure that anyone who's ever been in a courtroom knows that often they have, every case is set for 8:30. And then, so you get there and you wait and you wait and you wait till, it's your case's turn. In most courts, the cases are set, 8:30, 8:45, 9, or 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10. So there isn't a lot of uncertainty as to when you're going to be called. You don't waste as much time, and you can really just be, prepared. And like I said, it really is, once you're in the Zoom conference with your client and opposing counsel and the judge, it's just like you're standing there. It's pretty cool. It is recorded both on Zoom as well as by a court reporter. So you can order the transcript just like you could if you were standing in court. So that's pretty much how we're going to court and what we're doing. Filing has become a little complicated as courts that weren't necessarily ready to go to e-filing have been forced to go to e-filing. There's some glitches. I know a prosecutor filed a brief last Monday through the new e-filing system in one of the counties in circuit court on a capital felony case that we have together, and I still haven't been served through the e-filing of that. But I talked to him, so I know that he filed it. So there's some glitches but as we go through the days here, it gets better each day. We know more of what's going on in each court each day. A lot of judges have created their own YouTube channel to tell you what procedures their specific courtroom is using, which makes it super easy for us to figure it out. And some courts, for example, Wayne County Juvenile Court, Judge Braxton opened her whole docket today. She went as planned by Zoom, and every case that was set today, she heard today or is hearing right now. And again, she has a YouTube channel, so people who had cases in her courtroom got a call from the clerk, were told to go look at the YouTube channel, and knew their procedures ahead of time, what they had to get to the judge ahead of time, what they should be prepared for, and all that. And so it works, and it's happening right now. She did not take her cases from the first day court closed, like March 14th, and set them today. She's hearing her cases from April 20th today. So we'll see how that all plays out. Okay, so any questions? I saw some long things here. So, they're not really questions. They're hello, how are you, and happy birthday. Yeah, I had a birthday yesterday. And it was really pretty fun to have a quarantine birthday, I have to say. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Title IX. Title IX, for those of you that are not familiar, is a federal that deals with sexual assault, sexual harassment, equal accommodations for female students and male students. It's really was the product of the women's movement and wanting equal admission to colleges and all of that disparity from the past. It's also a fabulous athletic wear catalog if you're not familiar with that. But basically, the part of Title IX that I wanted to talk to you about right now has to do with on-campus sexual harassment or sexual assault. As you may remember, when Barack Obama was our president, he had a huge initiative to abolish campus rape. And it is alive and well, and I think there's more awareness. I think that certainly the Larry Nassers of the world have also caused more awareness. And then we have the hashtag #MeToo movement. There's an office that is mandated to be on every college campus. It has a different name on every college campus. A lot of times it's just called the Title IX office. Sometimes it's called the Office of Individual Equity. It has a bunch of different names. And that is supposed to be a neutral investigating arm within the university. Depending on the university, the people who are in that are either, most of them have graduate degrees, and some of them are lawyers, some of them are psychologists. They are not police, and I am uncertain, other than their formal education, how qualified they really are to do a quote-unquote investigation by the standards that we would define an investigation. The interesting thing about it is that I think everyone's familiar with hashtag #MeToo, and everyone has an opinion about it. And no matter what your opinion is, it has become, it's a topic of conversation, and it's influenced, really everything that we do. One thing especially that I think is important to remember is that it has turned the tide. And when I say that, I think it from what I hear from my clients and my peers, my colleagues, and people who just call and ask me questions, is the inquiry is in everyone's head, and not just females. It's in males and females, and it's, oh my God, when I was in college, and it was like 4 a.m, and we had just come from the party, and this happened. Was I raped? And it's kind of caused people to go through the Rolodex in their head and try to figure out if their experiences fit into something inappropriate or improper or illegal. And sometimes it does, obviously, and it's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. But sometimes it doesn't. And when you have these Title IX investigations on college campuses, they are inherently unfair. Until recently, and when I say recently, I'm talking about like the last, I don't even know if it's been a year, as attorneys for the accused, not the accuser, we did not have an opportunity to cross-examine or to ask questions of the accuser or of any other witness. And it certainly made it a presumption of guilt and a really impossible situation. Title IX covers conduct that occurs on campus or off campus at a school related or sanctioned activity, such as a sporting event or some kind of club outing or a dinner or anything that is possibly associated with the school. And also there's this category 3 of conduct that falls under Title IX, and that is conduct that occurs unrelated to a school event, not with someone who even attends your school, and not on campus. And the office that investigates these complaints has jurisdiction to look at that conduct as well, because if it can be shown that it affected that complaining or accuser student ability to function on campus in their normal way. Now, there's the process is that, they interview the accusers, they interview the accused, and then they also can interview witnesses or get statements from other people. I find it interesting, and in one in particular that I'm working on right now, there's a section in the preliminary report that says, I don't know if it says evidence not considered or statements not considered, something like that. And it has some letters from people who know the accuser and the accused and know some of the witnesses, and they said that they're not going to consider that information. Yet when you read the statements of the accuser, you see that she was asked about some of the things in those letters that weren't being considered, but the accused was not. So you have this disparity in treatment, even though they're supposedly neutral and are supposed to be giving this, an unbiased look. So what's coming up with Title IX? What are they doing now? COVID-19, their kids aren't in school. Is it still continuing? Yes, absolutely. Those offices are open on every college campus. They are not only are their complaints being taken, they're trying to do the investigations, and they're trying to complete them, which is very, very interesting, because there usually are pretty tight timelines on Title IX investigations and when people can respond and all of that. And they're not relaxing those timelines. I got a preliminary investigation report this morning, and it said we have 5 days to respond. Honestly, with everything that this investigator completely ignored, there's no way I could respond in 5 days if I had nothing to do. So we can get an extension. So we're going to be asking for that extension. But the big difference in what's coming, and it'll be coming soon, is as I mentioned, about a year ago, we gained the right to cross-examine the accuser and other witnesses in a Title IX hearing. And there was a case called the Baum case, BAUM, out of the Sixth Circuit, which basically said all universities in the states that are within the Sixth Circuit, which I'm probably going to miss some, but it's Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Michigan. I'm definitely missing some. Tennessee, maybe. Not super important, but in those states, you're now going to have this right to cross-examine, but it's going to be limited. And it's limited because of this overreaching, it's like just this overreaching smog in the process. I was trying to be more artful, but I think I can't describe it as anything else. That as soon as someone is cross-examined, they're being re-victimized. And first of all, they're not victims yet. It hasn't been proven that anything has happened to them. So that's one issue. There's, as I said at the beginning, there really isn't a presumption of innocence here during the Title IX investigation, even though they're supposed to be neutral and unbiased. And as the investigations go on, it seems like no matter how much information they get from the accused, it is not used in a light to help the accused or to figure things out. Pointing to other witnesses is one example, or just contradictions. The accuser says, yes, afterward I ran up to this person and I said, oh my God, I was sexually assaulted by this person, and and I have this bruise right here and whatever. And then they never interview the person that conversation allegedly took place with. And so we have to do it. And then we interview him and he's like, oh no, that didn't happen at all. She was wasted. She didn't say anything to me about Mr. Accused. So it's a very sticky situation for these investigators. Many, many, many times they have the students are partying, they're under the influence, they're drinking, they think they've been drugged, and sometimes they really are. But it's very rare that you have consistent stories. They're very difficult to defend. And as I said, until recently, really the accused didn't have very many rights. But Betsy DeVos, through the Department of Education, has submitted a proposed legislation that would modify Title IX and allow and enlarge the right to cross-examine. And so hopefully this will become better in the future. I think it has a really long way to go, to be fair. There are lawsuits filed both on the state and on the federal level. There's 612 lawsuits pending right this minute against universities for violating the accused rights during an investigation of a violation of Title IX. So that is kind of what's going on. And there has been a group from the Attorney General's office in many states, as well as our federal Attorney General, urging schools to suspend their investigations during COVID-19, but they are not. And as I said, they're continuing. Let me just look through my notes here, make sure I hit everything. If you want to read about what's happening on campuses, there's a website called Minding, MINDING, thecampus.org, and they have a lot of updates on Title IX and Title IX legislation and campus sex cases and things like that. It's interesting. I had said earlier that the investigations are not being suspended or paused. However, of these cases that are pending in court, most of them have all been adjourned or on pause, at least for the next 4 months across the country. And so that's kind of interesting because, like many other legal proceedings that have been put on hold, the courts, when they do open, are just going to be backlogged, and it's, that's something that, we haven't heard anything about how that's going to be handled in the future. So stay tuned on that. And And as you all know, and probably saw in the paper, no one is immune from being accused of sexual assault or of some kind of misconduct. And it's really it's a really easy allegation for people to make, and the allegation alone ruins lives. And it's something that we need to remember, that everyone is presumed innocent, and I think it illustrates it better than anything else, because I'm sure that everyone saw or heard that even Joe Biden has been accused of sexual assault. And I want to know how many of you, and I want every single one of you to go to that little chat box right now, and I want a yes or a no, because this is going to be so telling. How many of you heard the allegation about Joe Biden, or that there was one? You don't even have to know what it was, and thought to yourself, oh my God, I wonder what he's innocent of. Anyone? And you read the paper this morning or drove by that car that was pulled over, did you say to yourself, oh my God, I wonder what that guy's innocent of as he's being pulled over and handcuffed? But that's really what our Constitution is about, and that's how we need to think, and that's how we want our jurors to think, always. So Title IX is a long way from the presumption of innocence, but as I said, we're getting there. The Me Too movement has definitely made this more challenging. And so, unless anyone has any questions right now, I will end with the 5 reasons not to harm your loved ones in quarantine. And that is because protective services workers are essential. The police are essential. Our jails are overcrowded. Parents can get in trouble for kids being kids because they are bored and experimenting and don't know what else to do. It's a $1,000 ticket if you violate the stay home order, or a $500 fine and a misdemeanor if you get the criminal sanction for violating the stay home order. And last but not least, the reason not to harm your loved ones during quarantine is because very few people, if any, look good in horizontal orange stripes. So with that, I will say goodbye and stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy. I hope you have a great day. It's, as I said, a beautiful fall day during spring, and go outside, check it out. Bye. See you tomorrow.